both leaders here. Could you both give us a short introduction about what you currently do in Web3 and how you got started with Web3 in general? Maybe one way you'd like to start first?
Hey, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. And it's such a privilege to be, one of the first speakers on this really meaningful, networking session. So I'm One Way. How I got started in Web3 space was, actually, it wasn't Web3 originally. IKIGUIDE started in 2014, which was the year when I found out about Bitcoin, because someone actually wanted to pay me to write about Bitcoin article. So IKIGUIDE started as a startup platform, startup media to cover startups when I was in Finland. And when I wanted a media pass to go to the event called Slush, which was the first year in Finland as well. So it was very exciting. All my classmates wanted to volunteer to get free passes to the event. So I said, no, I have a master's in PR, so I'm going on media. And that's why IKIGUIDE was born. Then we pivoted to cover Bitcoin and blockchain news in 2017 when there's a hype cycle. And in 2018, actually, Alina's co-founder, Fiona, found me. And she was like, why don't you try for this content marketing position at a Web3 company? So I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And I got the job. So I'm very thankful to Fiona to this date, because I think that was the start of a really 9-to-5 kind of marketing career in Web3 space. Yeah, so at Multiverse Labs, actually, currently I'm the head of ecosystem. We got a promotion, but originally I started as a head of marketing strategy, which is why I'm here today. And really excited and really happy to be here. Passing on to Imran.
Thanks, One Way. Thanks, Daryl. Hi, guys. My name is Imran. I'm the head of marketing at Kyber Swap or Kyber Network. You guys can connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. It's the same name, same avatar. So my first touch with cryptocurrency and blockchain actually was back when I was in NUS. So there's this program called NUS Overseas Colleges. We spent some time in Silicon Valley. I went to a seminar or a meetup with one of the entrepreneurs or speakers, and that person gave each of us a thumb drive with 2 Bitcoin in it. And I don't know where that thumb drive is today. Very sad. Yeah, but that was my first touch with crypto. I started my own businesses with some startups, ran a marketing agency for several years. And so in 2017, when the ICO boom started happening in Singapore and around the world, my marketing agency was involved with a couple of ICOs. But because it was very Wild West, cowboy, many projects failed, including the ones that engaged me to do their marketing. I felt very bad about it. I felt very dirty. So I stayed away from the industry for several years. I went into e-commerce. I used to be the head of marketing of Shopback. And it was only in the last couple of years where crypto was essentially impossible to ignore anymore. Hi guys, appreciate it if you guys can mute. Yeah. So when crypto was impossible to ignore the last 1.5 years, got back into it personally as an investor, as a degen, as a trader, and then Kyber Network reached out to me for the role as head of marketing, and that's how I got back into the industry. For me, it was very important that I work with a company that has a very long-term horizon, that will be here for a long time, because of my previous experiences with the industry. Not high and buy type companies, not companies that will have a very bright flash and then die out. And that could be some of the concerns that any one of you here may have as well. So I'm very happy to share whatever I can today. And I will also love to hear from you guys, maybe where you guys are from, what you guys are, where your stage are at. Are you fresh grad? Are you mid-career? Are you switching now? Are you already in Web3? Are you trying to figure out? If you guys can just type in, I'm sure it will really help us to understand your profiles, as well as how to kind of like cater our answers and our content to you guys as well. Thanks.
Definitely. Thanks, Imran. And One Way for sharing. Yep. I think adding on for the new joiners as well, we will be having a Q&A session towards the end. So please do type in your questions here or in our Telegram chat as well. So moving on to the next question, we're also wondering, I think both of you, how do you decide to make the leap into Web3? I think making a jump into a Web3 job would be quite a big decision for both of you. So what were some of the considerations that you guys had when making this decision? Maybe Imran, you'd like to start first?
Okay. So I think Web3, blockchain, crypto, it's kind of like a general term for many, many different sub-industries coming in to get together, right? So when you look at it and you ask yourself where growth is going to be over the next decade, I think it's very important when you're looking at a career and your next steps to kind of figure out what game am I going to play, right? So I could be an accountant, I could be a marketer, I could be an admin, I could be a finance, but the industry and the game I choose can make a huge difference to my growth, my responsibility, my experiences, my pay, the opportunities that come my way. I don't know whether this makes sense to you guys. So it's very important to take a look at where that growth trajectory is. For me, I'm very focused on looking at where growth is because I want to grow. I want to grow my knowledge. I want to grow my experience. I want to grow my impact. I want to grow my wealth. So for me, it always makes sense for me to kind of look at where's the biggest growth is going to be. And I think right now, if you look at the amount of funding, the amount of growth, the amount of value, the amount of dollars, the amount of hiring, it's very, very, very clear. It's extremely clear right now that Web3 is the largest industry in the world today in terms of growth. So if you were an engineer, like let's say a software engineer, would you go into a very corporate structured low growth role in a typical tech company? Or would you want to go into a very high growth role and maybe become CTO in 4 years? That is possible with Web3, right? So for me, that growth is super important because I don't want to stagnate in terms of my experience. So I think that was like very important for me, right? I wanted to feel excited about the industry I'm in. I inherently believe in decentralization, in the philosophies that Web3 and decentralized platforms advocate, right? They advocate things like human freedom. They advocate things like access. They advocate things like control. You know, why should people be rejected from getting a loan? Why should people be rejected from opening a bank account? Why should I, if I protest against the government, have my bank account seized? These are things that fundamentally, as a philosophy, the industry believes that humans have the right to express who you are, to own your stuff, to have access to assets, to investments, right? So as a philosophy, it super drew me to it. So I think those two things are very intertwined. I found that I can add value to the industry with my previous experiences. And I think I would say it's also a combination of, just great luck that, certain opportunities came my way along the way as well. So so I think those were my personal factors when I went into the industry. Pass it on to 1 week.
Thanks, Imran. It's always a privilege talking to Imran because I feel like I learn a lot from his. I think he's very strategic in general. That's why I feel like I learn a lot. For me, I think the answer is more like I didn't think so much. Yeah, I only know that I'm very easily bored. So so what happened? Why did let me think. Yeah, I'm very easily bored, and basically the very practical answer was that I followed the money. Because I mean, back to Imran's point on growth, because if the industry has growth, naturally it will translate to higher salaries, higher remuneration, and remuneration package just got very interesting because there's also a token component. So that is like the practical aspect. The ideological aspect, since Imran shared, something that's very important to me is open source. Like super important, which is the key distinguishing factor between Web2 and Web3. Web2, you have big tech, and usually a lot of core tech, they're all patented, they're all very closed, it's not available on GitHub. Whereas in Web3, you have a lot of open source projects. Things are freely available on GitHub. Open source basically means your problem needs to be solved only once. And once you open it to globally very talented and smart people who will then collaboratively share together. So if you are easily bored like myself, this kind of very intellectually challenging environment where you feel challenged every day, you talk to like very smart people, then get mind blown because you've never seen the things that can be approached this way. I think it's a very good environment for myself. That's why I have been very fortunate to be in this space. I mean, since 2017, it was on, I was doing my own thing, my own startup, my own business. Then after Fiona found me, I think Fiona is on this call, so hi. And I'm very thankful. Till today, I'm very thankful for Fiona. Then I realized that actually I can do both. Why not? I can have my own like startup, my own company, and still do a full-time job because they are like very complementary. And then you use one to leverage and generate even more value for the other. I think it's all win-win. So I think this industry is about win-win-win situations and how you can leverage on certain technologies to create that. So I think it's very good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for both of you for sharing. I think there are also many parallels and similarities that both of you shared in terms of like the growth of the entire ecosystem, as well as philosophical reasons that why you wanted to join Web3. I see also many great questions coming in the Zoom chat. I think one question, in fact, is how different is your role from Web2 to Web3? I think that's actually something that that we have planned to ask as well. So both, I think many people on this call are either marketeers, aspiring marketeers, Web2 marketeers, or maybe even some Web3 marketeers on the call as well. So I think question that many of us would have on our minds is, what ways are marketing different in Web2 versus Web3? Maybe do you want to go first, one way?
What other differences are? Maybe Imran can go first because he is more, because for me it's more like, I think I kind of jumped directly to Web3 without that Web2, so much of the Web2 experience. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So when you LT, I'm assuming that you might have some sort of maybe marketing background, or you might be interested in marketing, right? So I think if you look at the inherent differences between Web2 and Web3, when you talk about things like open source, decentralized, a lot of Web2 is governed by access via sign up. So for example, I need to open up an account with Payla or DBS Digibank, and I need to KYC. I need to give my name, my email, my phone number, probably my ID, and in many cases, even if you're not signing up for a bank, many other services require you to do the same kind of KYC. So that's sign up, right? So with Web3, some things change very drastically. So because of decentralization and because of this value of privacy, a lot of decentralized players do not ask you for your name, do not ask you for your email, do not ask you for your ID. The implication of this is a few. As a user, I can go around and I can connect with, a metaverse, or with an app, or with a lending platform, or with a GameFi platform, and no one needs to know who I am. In fact, the company that's running that platform doesn't need to know who I am in order for me to access those services. For the marketer, this presents a few problems, because typically marketing is really centered around understanding a customer. Who are they? What's the profile? What's your CRM? What's the customer database? And you're trying to always double down on your best customers, right? And build up your customer database. So in Web3, you don't have a customer database for the most part. I mean, of course, you have central exchanges like crypto.com and Binance, and you do sign up and do KYC with them. But a large part of Web3 does not require you to do so, right? So when you are a marketer in that space, I don't have CRM. I can't send a push notification. I can't send a push email. I can't figure out who my demographics of my customers are. There's a lot of gap of that knowledge, and then you have to try to figure out, how do we circumvent this, right? How do I gather more data? How do I reach customers effectively with that big change, right? So like targeting via your database. That means last time Web2, I can take my 1 million customer database, I plunk it into Facebook, and I can directly target these users, or I can find lookalike users. Doesn't exist in Web3. I want to send a push notification via app. Web2 happened. Web3, it doesn't work. I want to send an email. In Web2, you have it. Web3 doesn't have it. But in Web3, now you have all these new various kinds of mechanisms. If you heard of things like airdrops, if you heard of things like whitelisting, if you heard of things like vampire attacks, so on and so forth. There's so many ways that DeFi players now are trying to figure out using on-chain mechanisms to provide some sort of marketing exposure and draw in new users. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really apply anymore. And then there's a whole bunch of new mechanisms that you have to figure out in Web3. I think the fundamental things of addressing human nature doesn't really change. However, the type of people that you're serving, their psychology, what they want, what they're looking for, it's a very specific kind of user, right? So right now, today, maybe 5-6% of the world hold crypto, and out of those 5 or 6% of holding crypto, and those that actually engage in DeFi, that means not just holding tokens in Binance, but they go into the decentralized finance space, or the metaverse space, or the GameFi space, and they download MetaMask, and they're engaging privately with all these apps. It's a tiny proportion as well. So it's extremely niche. So rather than looking at geographical and gender type of demographics, you're looking at the psychology of people. And if you're so early in the game with very, very, very early adopters, they have a very specific kind of psychology, and it's not defined by their age, by their background, or by their location. It's a lot more defined by their philosophy and beliefs. And it's a very different ball game to try to figure out and understand. So these are some of the things I would say definitely, even for me, after 10 years as a marketer, took me a while to kind of try to understand, figure out. I have to go into the Twitter space, I have to go into Discords, Telegrams, go deep into all these different groups and understand what are all these GIFs and their memes and all the funny words that they're using, and understand that culture. So those are some of the differences.
Thanks, Imran. Okay, let me add on. I just remember I actually worked 2 years at a Japan listed company. I forgot about. Before Multiverse, I was working at a software as a service company, but I actually forgot about it until like just now. Also, Imran brought up the point. Let me talk about budgeting, marketing budget, and how we allocate budget in a software as a service company. Software as a service, definitely, it is a very clear Web2 business model where you can scale it with very the marginal cost is very low and your marginal revenue is very high, to talk in a very clear benefits of that kind of business model term. So when it comes to like marketing budget, right, it's very specific. Like you are very clear of the product. You are very clear that hey, it's actually a proper software I am selling a tangible product, you can do a product demo, right? But when you go to Web3, if you're in layer 1 or you're in some DeFi or NFT projects, what you're selling may or may not be so clear. Sometimes you might especially when a lot of people do not see the token as a product, which I think is a mistake. So if you're in the Web3 space and your project relates to a token, then your marketing budget relates to how do you actually structure your marketing budget to meet the KPI of the token, which is like the brand of the token, your community management, and how do you sell the token with organic media, which is not very possible, because a lot of things to promote this token as a product, you need to do a lot of paid media, which is KOL, your key opinion leader marketing, and so on and so forth. So it definitely will affect the items on your marketing budget list. And I think that is one of the key differences that as for Web2, comparing Web2 and Web3. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing. I think both of you touched on really important points regarding budgets, anonymity, CRM. I think there are many things that are quite different from Web2 and Web3 marketing as well. And with that said, I think now Web3 is still very early for all of us, and maybe marketing strategy in Web3 is still very early. In what ways do you see marketing evolving in future and maturing in Web3? Anyone like to go first?
Can you repeat the question? In what ways?
Sure. In what ways do you see marketing evolving in the future of Web3?
Evolving, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I can share this. Marketing in Web3 is being innovated every single day, to the point that what works a few months ago doesn't work today. And I think that is the big challenge. There are many different types of evolution, right? So I think let's talk about a few types. Regulation. So Singapore went out, for example, 3 months ago and said, hey, okay, crypto-related ads banned. Before that, gray area. So technically, anyone that was trying to target on Singapore, I mean, no crypto company targets in Singapore is too small. But if they wanted to, they couldn't anymore, right? So these are type of regulatory dynamisms or evolution, right? Then you have the market or the industry maturity, right? So what is DeFi? How are the protocols being built? How are the services being built? You know, the idea of DeFi is everything that you can do in a financial institution, you can do online via code. You don't need to go through an insurance manager that could look at your face, don't like your face, then reject your claim, right? None of that happens because code is law, right? But how these things are being built, how are they being developed over time, I think that will change. And the mechanisms that go around it, right? Like, how do I target competitors, right? So for example, with a DeFi wallet, like a MetaMask or a Coinbase DeFi wallet, it's actually very easy to target specific wallet based on their behavior and interact with that wallet. So for example, if I am a GameFi company and I identify my top 3 GameFi competitors, and I can actually identify all the wallets that are interacting. Each wallet represents an individual user, right? So I can identify all those individual wallets that have interacted with my top 3 competitors, and I can send them one of my token. Suddenly you have 30,000 people that receive your token and go, hey, what's this about? Where can I use this token? And then they start looking and researching about your company, and then they come in. And these guys are very qualified, right? Because these guys are proven gamers. They have a wallet and they interacted with the top 3 competitors. And then suddenly they come and try to figure out how to use this free money that they got. So that's called a vampire attack. Literally, I spend money, send it out to users of my competitors, and these users come to me. And these are stuff that you don't typically see in Web2. And to be honest, I think more and more mechanisms will be tried out, right? So for example, hey, interact with my site, connect your wallet, do specific actions, and then you might be airdrop, you might be whitelisted and airdrop my new NFT collection, 100 packs only. So all these mechanisms are still being innovated, and I think they will continue to be innovated. And what is the limit? There's no limit. The limit is our creativity in terms of marketing and branding and mechanisms, as well as the technical execution of it. How do we code it up and execute it in a secure way, in a way that works? So this is still being innovated every day, and we talk about such mechanisms in my team like pretty much every day. How could we do this? How could we do that? Could we do it in a new way? Can we use NFTs in a different way? Can I enable NFTs to have users come in and then they stake it on my platform, and then suddenly they get cash flow unlocked? You're not selling your NFT, but you start getting $5 a day from our platform, things like that. So all these things are constantly being discussed, innovated, experimented, and I think this, if anything, it will intensify over time. I think there's also going to be that last factor of user growth, because there's going to be 1 billion people over the next 10 years that get into crypto and DeFi. And this 1 billion people are very different from the first adopters. they're not tech savvy. They expect Web3 to function and look like Web2. And right now, Web3 does not look like or function like Web2. So it's very difficult. And for the normies, as some of these Web3 guys like to call them, they get very turned off. It's like, okay, it's not for me, right? So in terms of figuring out the tech, in terms of figuring out the language, the user interface, the user experience, I think this is something that Web3 has a long way to go. Passing it on.
Thanks, Imran. Really, yeah, I learned from your sharing as well. In fact, this exact question, I was talking to my CEO this morning, actually, same question. I think the answer to this really depends on how business models will innovate. So a lot of people, right, they want to be spoon-fed, which really annoys me, like really annoying to talk to people who want to be spoon-fed. What I mean is that marketers in Web2, at least, business schools can still give you all like a textbook to say, okay, we should have the 4P, 8Ps and SWOT analysis, which are very valid. But I think in Web3, you need to go back to the first principles, like what Imran shared. For example, NFT, a lot of people do not really see it currently, especially Web2 marketers. They don't really see it as a business model innovation. What I mean by this is that when we have a sold out NFT collection, for example, people do not see it as a pre-order mechanism, or people do not see it as like the creator actually gets a lot of money upfront first, and then whether or not they deliver with their roadmap is another thing. But of course, hopefully you put your money with someone who wants to deliver the roadmap if you are in it for the long haul. So if you are the marketer who is hired to say market for this NFT project and do not know about this pre-ordering kind of business model or money upfront business model that protects your creator, which is a good thing, then how are you going to market, right? If you don't have that kind of awakening to, hey, this is the new business model. And I find it very ridiculous to have conversations like that when people say that they want to apply for companies in the Web3 space and do not understand that there's a change in business model. So if you do not understand that as a change in business model, how are you going to talk about 4P, 8P, SWOT analysis? I don't get that part. And I really think that is because people want to be spoon-fed, which is very bad. And I really don't like it. And so in interviews with our, for any marketing hires at Multiverse Lab, we have a set of questions to filter out these people. We basically go according to first principle thinking, like how are you going to do the marketing function with the knowledge of that there is a new business model involved. Yeah, so this question is an excellent question. The answer, it depends on how the business model evolves as more and more like smart people innovate and come up with very, very good, very innovative idea that are very wacky. Like people think it's a bit crazy one. If you realize me and Imran, we sound a bit crazy because that's the reality of the industry. There are very crazy people here. So we just like, okay, like someone were to raise an idea during a brainstorming session, then we'll just, okay, let's do it. Start small, then we pivot later to see the results. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much again for sharing and learning a lot from both of you as well. Yeah, I think maybe going back to the career part of this talk. So I think one question that many people would be thinking about would be joining Web3, right? So for an aspiring marketer looking to get into Web3, what is maybe one biggest tip that you give this person that is trying to join the space? Anyone would like to go first?
Okay. So I think it, like I said, the industry is big. There is central exchanges, there are decentralized exchanges, there's NFT, there's gaming, there's institutional side of DeFi or Web3. And if you're trying to jump in and you don't understand, and you're trying to apply, it's going to be very difficult because you don't fundamentally understand the niche that you're applying to, right? So what I would say is you should jump in as a user and support a hypothesis that I am excited about Web3 first, right? Like, because if you're not, it's perfectly fine, right? Like one way was saying that, we cannot have people in the industry that wants to be spoon-fed, and that's absolutely correct. And if you do, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but it's just not the right industry, right? So you got to understand the industry that you're going into by being in it, going into the space, using it as a user. Can you figure out how to use Web3? Can you figure out the tokens? Can you figure out installing a DeFi wallet, interacting with a metaverse, or interacting with a GameFi company, or interacting with a decentralized finance platform, and understanding why as a user would I go through this again? Like, I have my DBS iBanking, right? Like, you know, and what drives people to do this? If you are able to kind of win yourself over as a user, I think a few things happen. Very quickly, you start to understand which sections of Web3 you're interested in and which sections you are not. To be honest, I'm not too interested in metaverses and NFTs. Like, I think it's very interesting, and I think it's important that people build it out, but it's not a section of Web3 that I'm particularly interested in, right? But it's something that one way is like super suited for, right? So, and there in itself is very different, right? And even in fact, the user base and the type of psychology of that user base is also very different. The people that come in and look at the numbers and, okay, I want to lend and borrow and make arbitrage and yield and versus people that say, I want to make cool stuff and I'll buy a JPEG, right? Like the user psychology is completely different, right? So even within Web3, there are so many different verticals, and you got to understand which one appeal to you. And then, like one we said, there are underlying business models around that you have to kind of like figure out, understand, oh, this is how I pay, or this is how I make money, or how they make money from this transaction using this fee. And then you can start going deeper, right? So if you win yourself over as a user, then you can understand which section of the industry you go in. Then you can figure out which are the companies in the industry that you can go in. Like there's no shortcut in this, right? It's the same as trying to figure out what company in what industry in Web2 that you want to go to, right? So there's no shortcut in that you have to go deeper into that. You have to figure things out. You have to build relationships in the industry. And you probably want to do stuff like volunteer. So a lot of Web3 companies and communities are super community driven, super, right? So like I have a whole bunch of ambassadors that don't ask me for money. They just like the recognition of being an ambassador. They like being correct. They like having leadership. They like being community moderator, title next to their Telegram or their Discord, and they do it for free. But these guys live in Web3 247, right? So there's a lot of opportunities like that where you can volunteer, where you can be part of a community, where you can do research. Like One Way has done a fantastic job branding herself in the space because she's been writing about it without pay for a long time, right? So these are stuff that you can do today. Before you get the job, you must do all of that, right? And then suddenly you'll get opportunities. So that would be my best advice to go into the space.
Yeah, let me build on that. I guess. Oh, sorry. What was the question again? Because
how to get in?
How to
yeah,
get
basically one biggest tip for someone who wants to get into to be a Web3 marketing person.
Okay, like I never actually went for interviews. Like all the interviews I went for, right? Okay, like to me, my mindset for Web3 interviews is that it's a networking process, and I attend interviews even though I'm in a job I'm very happy with, to network and to buy coins. So that's true lah. Like so I think it is important to understand why you want to be in Web3. I mean, if you're not really easily bored, this industry is really very fast. I think Imran will agree also. Like for people who really want to switch off after 9 to 5, right? This industry is too fast already. For people who want to be spoon-fed and have a textbook answer to everything structured, like I just want to let's say go into a structured environment where I do my grand plan already and then don't change for 3 months, right? This is not the place for you. So I think it's back to your motivation. And frankly speaking, if you are serious and sincere, right, this question will not exist. So I think if the one tip I have is to really look into your motivations and then start small. Find out what works or not. Like Imran said, like I love this panel, by the way. I think by pure coincidence, right, we have two very different marketers. Imran is clearly very he has a system in his head, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like he has a system in his head, like there are steps to this system. So I think how he works is he finds out the first principle, then he creates a system in his head that becomes a strategy, and hence he can talk in very methodological format. For me, I'm also strategic, but I think I enjoy the drama in the space. I enjoy the ego. Like people come networking sessions, you meet people who wear blings and then tell you, hey, I bought a helicopter yesterday. Real conversations, by the way. Then you will be like, how do you react to this kind of things? How do you cut for them because of the ego? I actually enjoy these drama and ego and things like that. That's why I'm very happy as a marketer, as a BD, as a PR person in this space. Yeah, so I think you need to have internal clarity of what kind of nonsense you want to. Are you okay dealing with nonsense every day? Because I'm okay, I love it. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think both of you made really great points. I think we don't have enough time to have all of your sharing in this session. But yeah, thanks for all the tips. Maybe in light of time constraints, let's have a one-liner answer for this last question before we go right into the Q&As. We also have many great questions from the audience as well. So maybe a one-liner question would be, what do you think of the future of crypto, or what do you think the future of crypto will be like? One way would like to go first?
I think it's to infinity, because the industry, crypto is actually, you can mint infinite amount, non-fungible token, fungible token. Your marginal cost is 0, your marginal revenue is like infinity. So I think the possibilities are limitless. Yeah.
I'm a bit more I guess nuance to this, because I think it'll just be ubiquitous, right? So it means what we are seeing today in Web2 or in our everyday services, there will be a different but substitute type of equivalent for it in Web3. It creates a lot of opportunities, but I do think that over time speculation will normalize. That is my thought. Yeah, that's my one line.
Cool. Thanks, short and succinct from both of you. Okay, so let's get into some good questions that our audience have as well. I think I just picked out some interesting questions. One question I had was directed to One Way about launching an NFT project. I think this is something that many Web3 enthusiasts might be interested in as well. So maybe you could, I guess, briefly share about how you started your collection and the community in the NFT project.
Okay, thanks. Actually, this collection is not launched yet. We're launching like next month, but I can share with you how I wrote the book. So the book was actually a collaborative effort, and basically because I believe in open source a lot. So we interviewed like 29 trailblazers who are very, very happy to share their experiences from the VC angle, from creators angle, from marketers angle on how they do their NFT project. Okay, so from 0 to 1, basically, I think the common thread of all the responses, right, is basically just do. I know this is, yeah, because you see, if the instructions, right, even if the instruction is just do it, right, a lot of people will have a lot of excuses. They cannot follow the instruction, just do it. Yeah, so this is number one. How people start from 0 to 1 is because they have a lot of like, they'll come with a lot of excuses, which are, some may be valid, but they are still excuses. So they, people who actually have NFT collection, they really just started something and just did. And I think a lot of people were very fortunate because the hype was really strong last year. Okay, how we started a collection. My own collection is I have a collection of cats. They are called Ikitis because the startup name is IKIGUIDE, which comes from the Japanese word Ikigai. Yeah, so Ikiti is like a very good mascot because a lot of people cannot pronounce Ikigai. And it so happened that the diamond eye cat was very, very widely received. We actually have a lot of pre-orders for the cat even before we start the project already. So So I think it's good to always start small and get feedback. Then if needed, you can pivot. How we started a community. I think community is always about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means like what people are naturally interested in already. So whenever you build a community, you have to know intrinsic motivation. For example, this community like Web3, I heard from the founders who are also here tonight that it was literally started like 8 days ago, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So basically less than 2 weeks ago it started. And why there's a community now, right? It's because why it's so organic. It's because intrinsically people want answers. Intrinsically there is a market, and intrinsically people are really interested. They're like competent professionals really in the Web2 space, and they're looking at this Web3 cloud idea concept. And very fascinated by it. That's why we are all here on like Tuesday night talking about it. Yeah, my time zone is off. Yeah, so intrinsic motivation is very important. And if you are someone in the community, that makes you the best marketer because you can relate to your fellow community members intrinsically rather than extrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is like things like use money to go and use freebies to go and attract people to your group. Yeah. Okay. And how to keep the community going on? I think basically it's hard to serve people in the community, like to for IKIGUIDE and IKIGUIDE, right? A lot of people are interested in DeFi space, NFT space, which is why we are always looking forward to seeing how to serve them better. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for your sharing, Ollie. I think for anyone who is interested, Elena also shared where you can find the book in the chat as well. Another question, maybe I can direct it to Imran. I think LT, who sounds like a marketer, is also asking if you could share any proven growth marketing best practices that you've seen in Web3, or maybe just any case studies that you've seen worked well in your time in Web3.
So I saw your questions, LT. There's another one around Polygon. Maybe I'll try to group it together as well. So I shared a couple of the growth techniques like the airdrop, like the vampire attack. So those have been proven time and again. Typically when you launch something, you want to create hype. You typically want to work with influencers by every definition of that word, right? So you have like community leaders, you have creators, you have people who are like celebrity NFT collectors, so on and so forth, right? Because the addressable market is very small, the narrative plays a very, very, very big role in the success of your project, right? Or the company or your marketing campaign. So what they call FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the moment that people cast uncertainty, hey, these IKTs are scam, like you see a few like that, wow, the tide can turn so strongly, right? But conversely, if you have a few very strong vocal leaders and community members from the ground, very consistently building that community support for it, then suddenly you see a very strong momentum for it, right? And so that like an 80-90% momentum and community support versus like a 50-60% could be a very big difference for the success of a project. And so this is something that I've seen, right? Someone was asking around the community and how to talk to them if they're anonymous. There's really no other alternative than really going right into the Twitters, right into the Discords. The moment I see someone talk about Kyber swap, I message them, I say, thanks. By the way, where are you from? By the way, how do you use our product? By the way, any feedback from me? Hey, by the way, can I invite you to be an ambassador? Because it's so rare to have really great community people that publicly give us support like this, right? We have hundreds of thousands of users, but so few people that really are vocal about that. So I would love to have you as part of our community, and I'll give you alpha, right? Like before we give the news to the press, I give it to you first. And then these guys are like, oh yeah, let's do it, right? So winning the community over and listening to them is super important. So just to address the last point around Polygon, Polygon is one of the L1 blockchain similar to Ethereum, AVAX, BNB chain, so on and so forth, right? Polygon recently announced their $100 million grant for SuperNets, which is actually a copy of Avalanche's 100 million grant for subnets. But essentially, you can see all these different ecosystems trying to compete for traction and trying to compete for attention and projects and users to come in. And what I find, and like one way to say it, right, like if you have a very static 3-month plan and try to execute it to the T, it tends not to be so great. What you need to really do is to be very quickly roll with the punches, very quickly jump on trends, and very quickly be able to take opportunities before your competitors or other people in the market do. So what I've seen, and even in my own team and company, the more cautious we are, sometimes we go, alamak, we should have just been more crazy, man. And we're already in a crazy industry. We're already a crazy team in a crazy industry, but we shouldn't have been so cautious. Maybe we should have just taken that risk. So you will find that a lot of the projects that get a lot of attention, get a lot of traction, they took a lot of risk as well. So I think that there is that that factor there.
I'd like to add on the Polygon point. Actually, Waves, right? You might want to check Waves, WAVES blockchain that nobody talks about. Okay, so Waves coin, right? The coin was the first coin I ever bought with my own money, not even Bitcoin. I bought Waves because like I really researched in the project. I think that was very, very long ago. Research in the project, I was like, this is even better than Ethereum. Like I believed in it because the transaction speed was so fast. They have very good Russian developers. Then I was like checking, at that time I was in Finland, so Russia is just next door. Then I was like, okay, let's support Russian project. So I bought Waves. So like I think it's the same, there are parallels to this because like Waves is so technically superior. The decentralized wallet was so good. That was I think 2017. Like super good decentralized wallet. Everything technologically it was so good, technically very strong, but UX sucks. Things like UX really sucks for the decentralized wallet because whenever you try to click a button, the button is in red. They meant it to be like, okay, everything is safe, please click the button. It was in red, which was so bad. So I think that question is like, it's things like that. Like masses may not agree with anything that is technically superior. So Polygon, my NFT mint for equity, right, will be on Polygon, and we disagree with I mean, I will not use Ethereum because gas fee is still crazy no matter what they say about like Ethereum 2.0. Solana is terrible, it's horrible to code on. It's not as simple to code as a lot of people say, but a lot of people are still on Solana because of the Phantom wallet and because the percentage of wallet or percentage of people who own Solana is higher. So I think Polygon is they are just made of very technically superior coders in their team, in my personal opinion, that they don't really think about things like speed, as Imran mentioned, and probably a bit more risk averse in my experience, but they do have very good ecosystem fund. If you want to apply for the Polygon Studios for funding, I think they are very open to it. Yeah.
Awesome, amazing sharing with both of our speakers today. I think we definitely all learned a lot from Web3 careers to marketing to the ecosystem in general. Definitely thanks so much for all of you and everyone else in the audience who is taking time off your Tuesday nights to spend time with us as well. So I think this is coming to the end of our today's session, but don't worry, we will be having a lot more weekly sessions as well, where we invite other leaders across other fields like product management, developers, analysts that are working in Web3 as well. So do keep us in the loop. Do follow us on LinkedIn, join our Telegram channel, and look out for other social media channels as well, where we'll be posting more updates. So before we end, maybe if everyone is open to sharing your video, we could take a group photo together. This is our very first session together as well. Feel free, if everyone is comfortable, feel free to share your video. Awesome. Okay, bright smiles everyone. I'll also be taking the video to a photo in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, great. Thank you so much once again for every one of you for joining us this evening, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to end the session. We will continue our chat on Telegram. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Lina. Kurt,
Very good sharing.
Conway, Daryl, bye-bye.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.